You found the Rebirth podcast. I'm Kate Brenton, the creator and founder. Rebirth also became a book, and you can find it at your local bookstore or order it online. If you're listening to this message, that's what it feels like. I'm sending you a message. It's Friday, March 24th. The Sit in Your Center class, which is a master class for women to reclaim their power and their potency, just opened yesterday. I'm keeping it the doorway open until Saturday, which is tomorrow at noon. If you're interested, it is there's a lot of energies coalescing right now, and I'm becoming more and more clear that powerful women, whether you see yourself as one or not, we need you resourced, and we need you fully operational. You can't see me, but I have my hands together, and I'm relatively pleading with you, if you're listening, that the energy that you devote to yourself will magnify across our community, and I want to help you do it. So if you're listening and you're like, what? Yeah, I need that. Go to katebrenton.com, click on Sit in Your Center. There's a payment plan. You can register in full. If you need help, use the code GATHER and get in before Saturday at 12. Within 2 hours of registering, you'll have access to the whole Teachable community, and that is where we have my learning style is such that I give you content that's between you and me. You know, it's a recorded video, but it's me talking to you, so you have time to digest. Then we do live teaching and community question and answer and work together every Thursday from 1 to 2. There's 4 of those. You missed the first one. It's okay. We'll make it up. In fact, DM me if you're feeling super passionate, but get in before our next Thursday class, because we have a window right now. If you're listening, we have a window, and we need as many of us as possible to jump into this window and reclaim the significance of our sovereignty and move forward as women in our power. And by the way, women in power can mean at home, at work. It can mean for someone else, they don't see the tactile difference, but you resonate with more joy and certainty that you are here for a reason. That's to me is a woman in power, one that knows her purpose, whatever it may be, and feels comfortable being and doing, and is comfortable in both of those, right? Being and doing. So this episode for you is shortly after a mastermind that I just joined that is connecting so many dots for me, and it is raw, it is unedited, and I'm going to come on every Friday that I'm in this mastermind to share with you, because I want to bring us all along together. So again, if you are ready to hop into a community, so it's a class, a self-paced class. The videos of the class are self-paced, but I also teach on Thursdays for an hour in a community of women that understand the significance of gathering together to potentize your intention and to uplift, not to trauma bond share, but to uplift. Okay, that's enough from me. Thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful Friday. And if you find this episode resourceful, send it to a friend, give us a 5-star rating, and help spread this word, because we're here to build the world we want to live in. You found the Rebirth podcast. This is Kate, creator behind this space in the universe. What this podcast isn't is a birth podcast. It's also not a rebirthing podcast for those in the breath work. There was a yoga teacher who recently asked me questions about this podcast and the work that I do. And she said, do you only work with prenatal? And I said, no. Do you only work with birth workers? And I said, no. I said, actually, the idea of this podcast is about the continual rebirth that we have as humans. Life is cyclical. It spirals. I am in the middle of my ages, hopefully, and there is this is the time period where if you were banking on the steady linear climb of things, you start to realize that nature is constantly spiraling, and that spiral is creative, and that spiral is destructive, and it has moments of externalness and moments of internalness. And I want to address, I thought, oh, I could change the title of the podcast, but that would be responding to the external and changing my own mission to be more accessible versus going into the resonance of educator and what I think I'm here to do. So why am I talking to you on a podcast about this? Because if you're listening to this podcast, you have similar questions about, well, this is what I really want to do, but the world says this. So if I change my title, or I find the 3 right adjectives for my superpower, or if I create this, meme, and yet the way my work has always worked, when it's flourishing, when I am in the available phase and the seasons to be reached, it's frequency and resonance, it's referral. It's people saying, I'm not sure exactly why I'm feeling called. And I agree. If you're listening and you're in the business mindset, it's like, well, they should feel really clear. And I said, I agree with that. But when you're working with upliftment and consciousness, sometimes people are empowered to move from resonance. So what is the point of this particular podcast? If you're going to choose to continue to listen or click next and maybe go into one of the guest episodes, is if you are feeling the energetic changes and are feeling pulled towards a new potentiality or possibility, and new might be returning to something you always held as true, but you let go of because the world told you to, then this would be something to tune in for a little bit. Otherwise, if you're like, no, Kate, I'm not interested in that, then I would just click next. There's like 2 other fantastic episodes right after this. One about finding the helpers in the airport, which I think is one of the best stories I've ever told on the Rebirth podcast. And then the one after that is there's 2 options. Anyway, they're guest episodes, and please feel free to enjoy them. So if you're still here and you're like, no, I want to hear more about the stepping up, there's a couple of things. One, a friend of mine who's a coach a couple months ago told me to feel into being the screenwriter, of my day. And then I was on a mastermind call today that was less about esoterics and more about, although the person is spiritually minded, the call was much more about the building blocks of finances and the logistics of building out your business. And for some reason today, it just clicked for me that it's all about deciding that you get to have the life that you want. And I don't know if we all believe that we get to do that. And I don't know if all of us in this life that necessarily looks the same or has the same dexterity to it. But I'm pretty sure, I'm not pretty sure, I am certain that there's more pleasure and more alignment available to us than most of the population is allowing. And of course, if you're new here, when I say allowing, I mean subconsciously. I mean that there's driving forces that are ours or not ours, that color our perception, our bandwidth, and what we think is available to us. I'm going to recommend listening to Molly McCord's Intuitive Astrology podcast that she just put out on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2023. And the basis of the whole podcast is it's time to step up. Like, if you're the person that's listening to this, and when I said energetic frequency, you leaned a little closer because you were grateful for like-mindedness. There is a shift happening where those that were happy on the outskirts are being asked to step up. And that step up doesn't, or for me, let me put it this way, the step up isn't about the external, it's an internal allowance of a little bit more, of being more comfortable with a wider bandwidth of your own energy, your own assurance, your own success, your own rebirth. And when I say success, that a lot of, whether they're manifestation coaches or business coaches or finance coaches or, all these things, coach, it's like, well, how do you want to feel? And when I was looking at some pillars for finances, and this idea is simultaneously like creating a living space inside my brain of like, if I keep leaning out, I can't hit where I'm destined to be. But if I lean in and I double down on the craziness of my uniqueness, there's just might be a chance that that is exactly the thing that will reflect out externally. And when I thought, what feeling would that give me? It was relief. It would be a relief to know that how I want to feel is how I'm supposed to feel, and that how I was wired to be in this world is exactly what the world needs. So if this is of interest to you, please go listen to Molly McCord's podcast and come back this time next week. I'll do another Friday. Let's check in on how we feel about this. Yeah, that's what I said. Let's start to build a frequency of this radical idea that who we were innately built to be is exactly what this crumbling world needs right now. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into the Rebirth Podcast. If you enjoy these stories and ingesting inspiration because you understand that what you bring into your field magnifies your field, go on over to Amazon and click on Rebirth, the book, and bring it into your home and share it with your community.